this thing that I'm about to share with you is terrifying because it's in my district, and it's solvable by the politicians. So I can tell you about what's happening if you want.
Yeah, please do. Please do. Go for it.
So Carondelet St. Joe's is owned by Tenant Health System. They're a level 1 trauma center, and they are out in the east side of Tucson. And they have been losing nurses. I think they've lost 18 nurses in the last 3 weeks. So they're at critical levels. So they should have, let's say, 12 nurses on a shift. They have 3 or 4. They've had people dying in the halls.
Wait. Let me slow you down right there. First off, so Tenet came out about, I don't know, a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and said that they have decided that their employees do not have to get the COVID shot to stay, because I guess they were getting so short-staffed. Yet they're losing all kinds of people left and right?
They said that, but then they continued to bully their employees. So through that process, they have lost hundreds of nurses plus.
Wow.
The other thing that Tenet doesn't tell you is they're bragging to their stockholders about all the profits they made. The government gave Tenet and a lot of other medical institutions a lot of money during COVID. That money didn't filter down to their workers who are on the front line. So now you can be a traveling nurse. Now you can go work in a restaurant. You can go other places and not have the stress of this job. And unfortunately, the nurses that have stayed, they go into work in the morning. I've talked to them. They cry when they get there. They cry when they go home. People, they cannot physically, emotionally, and mentally do their job for much longer at the critical low levels of nursing that they have right now.
And the administration doesn't care because they've gotten so much COVID money that they don't even need to have people in beds because that's why they don't care, right?
Well, they don't have they have people literally waiting in the waiting room for over 24 hours. 48 hours. They had 7 core nurses quit just last week, and traveling nurses, even these traveling nurses are getting paid more, are quitting because it's unsafe staffing is what they're saying. And in this particular email I got, they had 2 deaths in the ED, in the emergency department, within 1 week. Now I know it's up to 4 or 6. So they are just refusing to do the right thing, and I believe they're going to have a protest next week, and I can send you details and you can talk about it. It's just that they're going to an alarming, this is horrid. I mean, if you can imagine, your job is to go in and you're triaging every day because you can't get to your patients. There's so many more patients because 4 people can't handle the volume and the number of people coming into the facility.
But this is Kathleen Wynne. She is running for Congress in what is going to be the soon-to-be CD6. She's on KNST. Wynne, W-I-N-N, winforcongress.com is a website. So you're telling me, let's go back to the big shocking thing. You've been told by people that work at St. Joseph's Hospital here that people have literally died in the hallways, like on a bed, because there's nobody to care for them?
In a chair, in a restroom. I believe one woman was there to see her husband, who's still there being treated, and she said she wasn't feeling well, and she sat down in a chair, and no one tended to her. And several hours later, and here's the problem: hospitals have risk management. So typically, if someone just dies randomly in your hospital, someone would investigate it. No one's investigating this. No one's come down, no one's asked them about it. So they're just kind of ignoring what's happening inside their hospital.
They don't want the bad news out. So this lady just literally collapsed in a chair and died, and nobody in the hospital noticed this?
For a couple hours.
She was dead for a couple of hours?
Yes.
There's got to be lawsuits about this. No, there's got to be people. I mean, this is ridiculous.
The doctors and nurses are surprised because normally when something like this happens, there'd be an instant investigation. But again, they can't. And this is the other thing. So if you had COVID or COVID symptoms, you were put on leave for 10 days. Then they shortened it to 5 days. And then they told people that had COVID just to come in and work. So again, it's all the things that are happening out there, and as I heard you this morning on the radio with the mask mandates and everything else, it's political theater, and yet we're putting people's lives at risk, including our doctors and nurses, because you can't take on that kind of stress and serve people and do your job. So what we're doing, and what the doctor that originally contacted me said, if the governor would lift the state of emergency, the majority of these obstacles would disappear. And the Arizona Department of Health or the Joint Commission can show up unannounced and evaluate. And this usually scares the hospital administration. But because we're under this emergency, so many other protocols are not being allowed. And so we're killing people in our hospitals. We're actually killing people at the place where they're supposed to go to get health care. And that should terrify people. Forget the masks. I mean, the masks are important. That's suppression. But this is murder.
Yeah.
And this is egregious.
And you're saying that, and this is Kathleen Wynn, again, Win for Congress, WINN, winforcongress.com is the website. She's on KNST. Normally there'd be investigations, but they're just, I mean, the hospitals don't want to investigate themselves. And is there a reason why there are no investigations? Are they that shorthanded as well, or they just don't care?
Well, if you are boasting about your profits, do you really want to have the next news story be that people are dying in your hospitals unattended to?
This is a major story.
Let's just, yes. Well, I wanted you, and your Pima County supervisors, they could stop the vaccine mandate and concentrate on issues also. So there's levels of government here that could intervene. And people need to understand that if you're Trauma One Center, this is, I don't know, I believe there's several, maybe UMC, but this is a trauma level 1 center that's not functioning. So if you have a trauma and you get taken here, you're not going to get the level of care that you need.
No.
And this is the time of year when we have more people here. And so this is a problem, and we need to be aware of it. And so the doctors and nurses at this hospital have reached out to me, and I've shared this with people, but sharing it with you gives it a broader reach, and I appreciate you letting me do that this morning.
So, and I appreciate that. So basically, we've had at St. Joseph's Hospital, because of the COVID shot mandate, and then they publicly said, we're not going to do this to anybody, right? We're not going to, no. You don't have to do it here. But they lied about it, basically, and they're bullying their staff to do it. So people are quitting left and right, and they don't have enough people to work. They don't have enough people staffed. He said that it's dangerous staffing levels, obviously because they have too many people and too many patients, and not enough nurses and staff can tend to them. So they can't get the treatment that they need. People literally, and I'm not downplaying this, is there more than one person that has died that you've heard of just by, because they couldn't get care?
Yeah, 4 to 6 people have died.
So the doctor who contacted you from St. Joseph said there's between 4 and 6 people that he or she has heard of?
The nurse that contacted me. The doctor told me about 2, and then the nurse told me 4 more, and they weren't the same. So what they've said is we have a nursing staffing issue in the emergency department, so the department is overwhelmed by patients. It is dangerous for patients and staff.
And it can't be the only hospital. I mean, people, like, I am so anti-hospitals now. Where are you supposed to go? I mean, they're supposed to care for us in the community. They take a crap ton of our tax dollars, and they just, like, that's the thing. These hospitals, they don't care anymore. They got the cash.
Well,
they're ideologues.
I want to distinguish between the doctors and nurses who obviously care enough to reach out.
The hospital management versus
the administration. I want to be I want to applaud these doctors and nurses for saying something and putting it all on the line. But I talked to an attorney yesterday who's representing a bunch of nurses who are having emotional breakdowns because their whole life purpose is to take care of people, and the structures within their hospitals are not working because of this COVID vaccine mandate. And so, and these are people that work in healthcare, so shouldn't they get to decide what their best health protocol is? These are doctors and nurses.
Wow.
I don't understand how a hospital administrator is more qualified to tell a person what their healthcare should be. Why do you want an administrator making a medical decision versus a doctor who's devoted his whole life to that? That doesn't make any sense to me, but maybe because I'm not a politician.
Kathleen, can you hang on? I have more questions. Can you hang on for me for another segment if you don't mind?
Sure, absolutely. Sure.
Thank you very much. All right, Kathleen Wynn, running for Congress in it was CD2, now soon to be CD6. WINN, winforcongress.com. This is some major people dying in hospital hallways, sick 6 people dead because the staffing levels are so short. This is, wow. Crazy. I have more questions about this. Stay with me. Don't go anywhere. KNST, AM 790, Tucson's most stimulating.
KNST.
Knew these things would happen, but we need whistleblowers to come out to say it. And we now know, I mean, I don't want to get the numbers wrong. Kathleen Wynne is still with me. She's running for Congress in CD2, soon to be CD6. WINN, winforcongress.com. And you've had doctors and nurses from St. Joseph's Hospital, Tenet Healthcare owns it, here in Tucson, reach out to you. One of them, the doctor, said 2 people have died in the hallways. The nurses said 4. So 6 people have died because nobody is there. The staff is so short they can't care for these people. 6 people have died in the hospital because of lack of staff.
So what they say is that there should be 12 people on a shift, and the schedule comes out and with extremely low staff numbers, like with only 2 to 3 nurses on some of the days. And when they went to their director regarding this, their response is, "We're working on things." That was in quotes. "We're working on things." And so, Tenet owns St. Joe's, they own St. Mary's hospitals, and the nurses said, "Why don't we do a retention bonus?" TMC and Banner have instituted retention bonuses because they know how important, and that's been successful, and they've refused. So they're boasting about their profits. They've refused to pay the frontline workers a bonus to stay during this crisis, and I think that that's criminal. I just think it's criminal, and the nurses are saying it's going from horrid to impossible. At an alarming rate. And they originally reached out to me. I think I shared it with you right before Christmas. So this has been going on for about a month now. And they just can't, they're desperate. Their nursing union work rep is here. I talked to him 2 days ago, and they're planning, they're nurses. They can't get out there and just walk around and protest because it just goes against everything that they stand for. But we have to shine a light on this. You can't have people going to a hospital and dying there because they didn't get care. That's why you go to the hospital.
Yeah.
And the political handcuffing is what's causing this. We're worried. We're focused on things, and the masks and all that stuff is important. But this is a care center.
Yeah.
Where do you ask the question? Where do you go if you can't get care? Where do you go?
There's nowhere to go, and this is the problem.
You can't. Yeah.
This is the problem. We have no trust in the medical system anymore. Their advice, anything, the diagnosis, nothing. I mean. Is it a large group that is willing to blow the whistle on this? This is a big deal. Are there a lot of what are they going to do about this to try to attract the attention? I'm glad they told you, and we get this on the radio. I think they need to call me up and come on the show as well because it needs to get out there.
I will connect you with their rep. He was supposed to call me back yesterday, and he has been so busy trying to deal with the issues of his employees. But I will work on that over the weekend, and hopefully we can get them on for you Monday. But I know that they're planning a protest, and I think people need to let these workers know we support them. We understand their frustration. But if you can imagine, you're showing up every day, you're doing your job, and your company at the same time is boasting record profits, and you know what the reality of the situation is. I think they feel insulted. They can't sustain what they're doing, and they're angry, and they don't want to walk away. But they don't. It's a train wreck, and I applaud them for having the moral courage to call me, and I'm calling you, and I think we need to come behind these doctors and nurses because, again. Stupid political decisions are dictating the quality of our care, our medical care, and our lives. And it's unconscionable. I don't have a better, it's horrid. Horrid is their word.
Kathleen, yeah, you said, and I don't know if you know the answer. I don't know if it's just something they told you. You mentioned if Ducey would end the state of emergency. Did they explain how Ducey lifting the state of emergency would end obstacles and make sure there's accountability with St. Joseph's Hospital?
If the governor would lift the state of emergency, the majority of obstacles would disappear. I can get clarification on that. I don't have a further. I'm assuming that there's certain protocols that are in place. They're empowering certain procedures. Also, as you know, and you mentioned it earlier on your show, there's certain medicines that they're not allowing.
Yeah.
But yet we know are successful, and even more successful than the ones that they are using. And they have if you come into the hospital, ventilator, remdesivir. That if you want to go outside that protocol, you've got to find someone who's willing to come up and stand up for that. We've got to let doctors do their jobs and use all the resources out there, not just the Merck, Pfizer, make the pharmaceutical companies richer.
Exactly.
There's other ways to solve these problems.
Exactly. I think it was like a month ago, maybe a month and a half. I could have sworn it was the chief medical officer of St. Joe's or Tenet Health, right? Karanda, lay down here. Somebody sent me an internal email where they said, if you basically prescribe ivermectin, you're going to be out of a job. Did they tell you that? Any of the doctors?
Well,
nurses?
I think that's what this doctor is alluding to, and this is part of the. I think it's called the Abrazo Health Network. Is that?
Yep.
And right. So that's where that memo came from. Yes, you've got your Pima County supervisors. They can stop the vaccine mandate. There's other elected officials in this community. I'm not elected yet. I'm working towards that. But we have to. This is a life and death. I don't want to be dramatic.
No, it is.
I don't want to be bombastic. But if you've got people going to a trauma center and they can't be seen because you should have 12 nurses on staff and you have 2, you've got a problem. And if COVID is as serious, and we know that there's issues, forget it. Let's say you don't have COVID. Let's say you have some other trauma. This is a trauma center. So, you've got chest pain. Let's say you're having a heart attack or you're having a stroke. This is where you would go. But you can't be seen. If you're having a heart attack or stroke and you can't be seen, of course you're going to die. So this is what's happening there. And so I will get you additional information.
Sure,
I just wanted you to know.
I appreciate that. I just wonder if there's certain, minimums or something where there's regulations that need to be followed where you have a certain minimum number of staff working. Otherwise, like you said, it's too dangerous. And is all that just being ignored? I've heard that there's a licensing that you get for being a trauma center, and those licenses are due up, but you have to go take classes. Well, the people that are working there, they don't have time to breathe, so they don't have time to go and take classes right now to get their recertifications. So many of their nursing staff are going to lose their certifications for being at a trauma center. And the administrators, there's a big problem. The administrators that are there that are bragging about how much money they have because they got so much COVID cash are refusing to pay the people to stay and work that were the heroes that we all celebrated, right? Yeah, these people are heroes, right? They worked through the worst of the China virus, and they refuse to use that extra. They're just sitting on that cash instead of paying their employees.
Exactly. And bragging about it. And saying and hitting themselves on the back for the profit that they paid their stockholders. If I'm a stockholder for that company, I would be embarrassed right now, because if your profession and you're standing up for the healthcare industry and this is how you're treating your employees and the people that they're trying to serve, the patients, shame on you.
Do you know, Kathleen, this is Kathleen Wynn, WINN, winforcongress.com. Do you know if the people you spoke to from St. Joseph's, did they try to contact any actual elected representatives, state senators, state reps, things like that?
I don't know. I don't want to. I don't know if they. I think they did. I think they tried to contact the governor's office, and I believe they tried to contact your supervisors. But again, it's your show. They heard me on your show. They didn't know me before that. That's how we got connected. So I just said, "Tell me what's going on." And
I'd love to find out. I'd love to find out what was told to them at the governor's office and whatever supervisors they tried to contact. I'd love to find that out, because, Matt, here's the thing. People are dying because they're short-staffed, right? And these poor workers are getting stressed out to the max, and they're going to leave their jobs because you can't do that as a human. They're going to leave because of COVID regulations. It's not COVID that's doing it. It's COVID regulations, right? They got to get the COVID
Correct.
shot to keep their job. Otherwise, they're out. And because of COVID regulations, people are now in more danger. We have crazy people like Matt Hines, who's supposedly a doctor himself at TMC, supporting these same policies that are causing people to die in hospitals because of lack of care. Did I lose you?
I don't have an answer for you.
Exactly. I mean, that's what it is.
This is
crazy.
But this is the insanity. This is why we have to get these people that are running the country neutralized.
Yeah.
And I don't mean, but we have to take back Congress. We have to get our local elected officials thinking for themselves again instead of this groupthink that is so destructive for our hospitals, our towns, our counties. If everyone's saying the same thing over and over again and no one's actually looking, and I love this follow the science thing. These nurses are willing to get tested. They've made a medical decision for themselves, and as a result, were bullied out of their jobs. And now they don't have enough people to do the job.
Yep.
And they could have fixed this, and they ignored it because the political protocol spoke the loudest.
Is there anything, Kathleen, my listeners can do? I mean, you don't want to call and yell at the person that answers the phone at St. Joe's because it's not their fault.
No, I think what we do, they are planning their own rally and walk. I believe it's going to be on the 13th. I don't have the details. We can get them to your listeners on Monday, and I'll have them circle back, and hopefully their union rep will be willing to come on, the nurses union rep. And I thought you should know this. It was in line with what you were talking about this morning, and I just didn't want the day to pass. And
no,
and
this is huge. I mean, did they try
people need to know.
They do. I don't know. So they heard you. Did they even? I want to see. This is a major story. If you hear people are dying in hospitals because there's not enough staff, and it's because of COVID regulations, right? COVID restrictions, basically. Yes. Like every media outlet in Arizona, let alone Southern Arizona, should be talking about this and calling them up and saying what's going on over there. And I guarantee you, no TV station here is going to, or newspaper is going to call them up because they don't want this information to get out.
Right. It goes against the narrative of everyone getting vaccinated. The next thing we'll hear is while babies are in vitro, they need to be vaccinated. So I don't like the extremes. I don't like one size fits all medicine. And when you ask someone to do a job and take an oath, and these doctors take an oath, and then you get in the way of the job that they're supposed to do because you are trying to create profit over people, you have a problem, and that's what this is. And it should be criminal. When doctors overprescribed OxyContin, we prosecuted them.
Yeah.
I don't see that this doesn't end up the same. Somebody should know better. You don't have a trauma center with 2 nurses on staff. That's ridiculous.
I had a message from a friend, and he writes, anyone want to see what socialized medicine looks like?
Amen. That's right. It's exactly right.
This is what it is, right? This is Medicare for all. This is socialized medicine. Government takes over and screws everything up, and the care goes out the window. Like that's how it is. It's disgusting. Anyway. Is there anything else we're missing here? Because this is a big deal.
That's all I have for you today.
Okay.
I will keep trying to find the things that are broken and offer to come alongside others. This is not my story. This is a story that was relayed to me.
Yeah.
But I felt it was compelling. I thought it was important, and it was timely in light of everything else that's going on. But our hospitals were functioning before COVID.
Yeah.
And we